Hello, episode 20. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the messages and emails, and I hope everyone's doing incredible. If not, I hope you're on the way to unlocking incredible things that will lead to an incredible life. It's just whatever you've gotten yourself into, I hope that it's a path of heart for you. Hope that your perspective is becoming more expansive. I hope that you're starting to feel your potential, and start to um, maybe reconsider what it is that you've been telling yourself. I don't have a lot of thoughts anymore, and so all these memories are just constantly showing up because I have an open chakra line, and when we die, all of our memories move through our chakra line to witness it all. And it's all totally photographed perfectly. Every memory is exact. You can go back and change it, but those are like different timelines in a sense. That gets tricky too. So I hope your thoughts start to become like sweeter, like more based on gnosis instead of fear or self-doubt. To fall in love with yourself is to fall in love with your existence. um, I don't know how one would do that without meeting the mother, truly, because we're trained to seek love with another rather than with the self. But that's not wholeness. A lot of shamans aren't whole, and they haven't faced their wound, and so they seek intense shamanic shifts of perception in order to avoid the fact that they aren't in balance and harmony sexually, emotionally, physically, financially, and energetically. And so this desperation makes them and drives them to explore sorcery on a level of attainment, as if it's a 3D dense thing to achieve. And it's very effective. That's how my sorcerer teachers were. They were all how-to sorcerers. They were all avoiding their wounds, which is the shadow. And they all got pretty screwed up from doing that, especially because they hurt people. People ended up in mental wards and all that. Um, there's a lot of that going on right now, more than ever, because the energy is shifting and the assemblage point is flexible. Our perception is expansive on a level that it hasn't been before, and that goes both ways. And so forces rise to meet each other. You're going to have some really extreme actions on both sides, and then you're going to have the people that see the the extreme nature of things and are able to walk in a balanced way without being like spiritual, because spirituality is a trap. um, it just keeps you from being practical, pragmatic, and realistic, and then you end up spending your whole life spinning your wheels, thinking that your grandiose capacity is just not being recognized, or you sell out and become, what everyone wants you to be. Like, I don't know. It's just a trap. The archetype traps are there. Like, I don't have any interest. I don't need to be in these videos. I'm not doing this for me. I got called in here. If I get called out, I'll leave. Like, I'm just tracking. I live where I live, but if I get called to live somewhere else, I will. I don't try to force change. I'm not feeling a lack of anything, you know. I don't need a particular car or a home or a particular um, type of trophy of any sort to carry around to show that that I've achieved something, right? So my achievement is personal, it's internal, it shows in my eyes. It's I feel it in my heart. It's a path of heart. I walk a path of heart. and it's an incredible feeling to walk a path of art. I don't know many people that really do. I know people that claim to. Um, I don't know many people that have found a way to balance their thoughts so that they are not at odds with their themselves on any level. And so when you meet these sorcerers that are pushing their students and pushing themselves to achieve results through massive shifts of perception, when you ask them to look at an aspect of themselves that's out of balance, they turn into monsters and they attack you because they're really they're like animals that are hiding. They're running as far away from something as they can. It's really intense. I feel for them. Um, when I call them out, they assume that I'm making everything up and that I'm um, in my own illusion, because they assume that they are the best and that no one could call them out on anything because they are the best or whatever. It's just weird shit. The 3D world's so small and dense that somebody assumes that because they did some research and they looked around and they couldn't find other shamans in the world, that there are none left, or you know, and there are a lot of fake. There's a lot of fake bullshit, and people do discover a lot of charlatans, and so they do make that assumption. I get it. Um, I'm not even a shaman, and I can call shamans out on their shit because they're so fucking caught in the 3D, even though they're doing shamanic stuff. And so that's what's scary to me, is how alone we are. There's nobody that's whole. I keep bringing that up, but you got to understand that's concerning. There's nobody out in this world that can see the shamanic side clearly that I've discovered. Um, One of my teachers is super clear, but she admits, that what she cannot do. Um, she's at peace with that. She knows how rare she is, and that if she cannot do certain things, that it's possible that we've lost access to some of that. So it is what it is. We are where we are. I think all that old Toltec stuff has to go away in order for the new cycle to come in. I think everything old has to go, and that's what's going on. Where the old guard is uh, being relieved of their duty, and we're switching into something really different. I'm excited. I'm thankful to be witnessing it, to be engaged in the way that I am with the people that I am during this time. Um, I'm lucky to have gotten away from the people that I got away from, because my perspective was very limited. I was trusting and looking to these elders to see things that they weren't seeing, and so it just got out of balance. I could no longer continue to support them and their perspective of things if they weren't able to look at certain things. And so I'm mourning that loss in a sense, but at the same time, it's really powerful to realize how, um, well, to get kicked out of the nest and to learn to fly on my own. That's what I needed. So whether it's the information and their inability to look at it, or they're just playing, Heyoka on me, and they kicked kind of, they knew that I needed to do my own thing. It's okay either way. It doesn't matter. Um, we're all amazing. We all have the capacity to perceive, and we all have the capacity to adjust our perspective accordingly. And so as this division gets really intense, we want to be able to perceive and have perspective on how people got so far out of balance. We don't want to just think of them as being separate from us, because they're not. There's no separation. The individuation occurred to teach us about how amazing and unique we are as individuated beings, but that when a shaman dies, or when anyone dies, there's a fog of crystals that escapes the luminous cocoon, and they just drift off in every different direction forever, never to return to each other. So you are a cluster of awarenesses, and each crystal is aware on its own. Well, think of that on a collective. You are one of those crystals of the macro. So we're all going to we're even though we were once one and we separated, never to return. That's the torus field. It's the totality. It goes out forever, and then through the draw of the magnetic attraction, it brings it right back up into that, and then we will expand again and break off, and so we just keep doing that, and it just doesn't matter really what we do with it, other than observe it, become the observer of the observer, witness yourself observing this rich and powerful existence, and then you won't miss out on anything. You'll become a raw perceiver that's catching everything as it moves across your window. You're just a window. You're just this incredible being, and when the seer shows up and perceives the world for you instead of your autopilot program telling you, oh, that's a tree, that's a house, that's a computer, when you actually see this whole thing for what it is, it's so raw. It will remove your shields. The seer will tell you everything about the nature of this world, and you'll never be the same again. And that's something that takes time to develop and build up to. So how we prepare ourselves for that kind of experience is through recapitulation, through reading the Castaneda books, through practicing dreaming, through doing shamanic movement. You can do Qigong or Tai Chi as well. But I do these specific movements that are available called magical passes. I also discovered my own movements through the martial art training that I do and through the dreaming work that I do. I bring this up a lot, but I have to because it's planting a seed that hasn't sunk in. Um, the movements are like taking care of your spaceship. So your body knows what you need to do and why, or it doesn't know why, but it just knows what to do once you unlock that capacity. So I can do these movements. I can do the ones that I've discovered on my own. I'm certified to teach some of the movements that I learned from Clear Green. So it just depends on what you guys want to get into. I won't be teaching certain movements in large groups because I'm not certified, but I can teach the movements that I discovered on my own in large groups. They're just as powerful. So eventually we will be meeting in larger groups. I just am waiting sort of for the signs and for that door to open. At least I think that'll happen eventually. But I've been working a lot with people one on one. It's been incredible. Thank you for all of your capacity to be vulnerable and open and share your incredible stories. They're so rich, you guys. Your stories are incredible. Your pain is real. Your longing is real. Your capacity to for self-love is real. And so none of us really have the self-love that we need to proceed accordingly, but we're working toward it, and it takes time. There's a lot of wounds to heal. So we're going to give ourselves this boost of energy, and then we're going to realize, whoa, we really don't love ourselves like we thought, because we've come to terms with things. We start to work through what's in the way and where the wounds are, and that we judge ourselves, and we haven't forgiven somebody or forgiven ourselves, right? So it's not insane. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's not for everybody. I get it. Some people just aren't ready. It's okay. But I hope you fall in love with your existence one way or another. It doesn't have to be anything to do with me. I don't want people to be like me. I want people to be themselves, right? So that's what happens is a sick martial artist shows up in the world and everyone's trying to copy him. But he didn't copy anybody. That sick martial artist channeled that unique and rare way. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not copying anybody. I'm channeling. That's what I want for you. I don't want you to mimic others. But in order to get good at martial arts, I had to steal the movements from the ones that they couldn't explain what they were doing. I had to figure out what they were doing. And And you'll see that the real ones in the world aren't, they're channeling through the assemblage point position of the person that's teaching them. So you're you're allowing yourself to be so sensitive that you can feel the very shift of perception that that person is in order to access the very dynamic way in which they move. It's the same with dancing. The really sick women that can fucking throw down on a dance floor aren't thinking about what they're gonna do. They're just in the flow. And that's why it's so fucking powerful and beautiful. And there are men that can throw down on that level too, and or on a snowboard or whatever. People that are totally in their power don't have a lot of inventory. They're not like, okay, well, I'm going to do this, or this is how I dance, or it's not a dance move. It's a total liberation of their shamanic power. So people trip on me at music because they can't believe how much I'm in my own world. Um, it's because I don't really know that you're there. I am that deep into my own dreaming. I am not concerned about how I'm perceived. I am not concerned on whether I see you or not. Like, I don't need to witness anyone. I'm not there to chase pussy or open, I'm there to shake my bones because that music is there to heal me. Um, doesn't mean I won't have, interact and talk to people and say hi and hugs and the whole deal. I'm just saying when it's time to go inward, the music's on. I'm not really, even if my eyes are open, I'm not really perceiving the crowd. And so you want to be that liberated in order to do dreaming. You want to be able to walk into the office or uh, go to a court case and be indifferent to the outcome. You want to be able to walk through San Francisco with all the masked lunatics and not be at odds with any of it, and just see the zombies, just see it for what it is, and like you're in a fucking movie, because you are. This is a movie, you guys. We're being given the most incredible tale that's ever been told. So go out and witness it. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid to say no, and just stand in your sovereign self. There will come a point where saying no might not be the thing to do because it might get that fucked up around here. And you may have to come up with a more strategic way of taking care of oneself. Um, I don't know. I don't want to know the future. I enjoy being surprised. Um, it does have to get pretty bad for the majority to wake up and say this is so fucked that the masses move on the classes, and it's just a matter of time before that happens. But it's just, what's their game plan? They know, you know they know that. So there's going to be false flags and things that make it really difficult for us to do what we're here to do. So don't assume anything. It's organic. Even though this is a memory and we're in it, we still haven't witnessed it, so we don't know the details. Um, so, anyways, it's all cool. It's all incredible. Your capacity to wake yourself up is pretty key here. What is it going to do? What are you going to do? What are the things that are going to boost your immunity? Because when you wake yourself up, you're boosting your immunity, whether it's the cold shower or um, the recapitulation work or the movements I teach, whether it's dreaming. If you can open past gates in dreaming, you're going to feel so incredible. So how are we going to get you out of depression? How are we going to get you out of your fear 3D based reality that is limiting your capacity to intend a beautiful holistic path of heart? What's it going to take? Admitting to where you're at. Admit that you're not in love with your existence. Admit that you're coping with pain based on somebody else's projections. It's your wife, your husband, your brother, your nephew, whatever it is. We're very strange. We're very strange creatures. We're mysterious and dark and powerful, beautiful, cut off from source beings, and we're returning to source. So I can tell you that when your dreaming starts to happen, then you start to feel flexible physically. Your body starts to heal cellular on a cellular level. So all the pain you think is permanent, it's not, but it can be if you're not willing to talk to people and face how it's accumulated, how that stagnant energy can be redistributed. Right? All that stagnant energy that's causing pain is energy you need to give to different parts of your organ. So it's just too much energy in certain areas. That means your chakra line isn't able to flow, and the vortexes of each chakra need an adjustment. That's easy stuff, you guys. But people spend their whole lives not even dealing with just that basic healing, right? So, um, things are shifting, the weather's turning, the seasons, the intent, the feeling, the mood, our capacity to move our perception and gain a different perspective is really, um, it's really up, right? It's what's being asked of us, um, to keep opening our heart, right? So shamans are really into indifference, but if your heart is closed and you're indifferent, then you become very out of balance. We've got to open our hearts if we're going to become detached. We got to feel the emotion move through us when we see something beautiful. You know, if you're somehow been able to move away from emotion and you don't have tears anymore, then you're not receiving the proper jolts, right? This Don Juan Matus referred to jolting himself. He would use poetry to jolt himself. It produces profound amounts of emotion, which is energy and movement and intensity if properly channeled. If you overreact to the intensity of emoting, then you miss the opportunity of connecting. But I guarantee you that people like Juan Matus were taken to their knees with laughter. I mean, just almost taken out by the joy, equally by the sadness. Shamans say that sadness is the most prevalent force in the universe. Those that do real solo um, dreaming in order to perceive that which is what we call the abyss, the inner space. Um, they discover sadness. It's a vast sadness that is there for us to gain gnosis from, not to avoid or to perceive as separate. It's part of us. So we have to integrate that sadness. And the only warriors I know that are really beautiful are the ones that do that. I know these other ones that are really intense, they claiming to be sorcerers and they're whatnot, and they just don't have that balance, and they won't talk about it. So it's just unfortunate because that doesn't work long term. Um, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a contract for each person and that they're not doing exactly what they're here to do. It's just it's important that we all communicate and have conversations, and that we not think that we're above having these discussions. And so as the world gets more and more divided, our capacity to have perspective or perceive the way that it works so that we're sober and we can explain things without being divisive. So even though there's an abyss between you and someone else, and that they're actually wanting, say, they want you dead because you're not going along with the medical tyranny and they think that you don't deserve to live, that doesn't mean for any reason that you would ever need to get to the place of perceiving them as an enemy or that anyone outside of you is the enemy. Because in Aikido, you are the only enemy is the self. Doesn't matter what else is going on. Truly, the enemy is the self, because this is an illusion. And in Aikido, you discover that if you're really doing it. Most people don't. 99.999% of the students of Aikido don't discover what Morihei Ueshiba, the teacher of Aikido, discovered. And that's kind of the case with the Toltecs too. Like I'm an infant, you guys. I have met and encountered old energies of the Toltec line because I have the capacity to do this work. So I've been intervened upon by the death defier, a being that has lived for thousands of years, has made herself available to me as she does to any other Toltec dreamer. And so I have access to a really rare and powerful being. That doesn't mean that I'm going to accept that or that I'm going to work on that level. It's just that that's available. And so it's not like we're limited. Once you get to the place of working with these helpers and realize that they're real, then you realize the limitations aren't outside of you, they're within you. They're just that you haven't unlocked or faced all the wounds that are keeping you from being free. And so the most important thing I can do right now is face my wounds rather than try to just constantly focus on working with these helpers that have shown up and have given me this opportunity. But I do strike a balance, and I do appreciate the opportunities, and I do spend some time doing both. Um, and I'm still dealing with my own limitations as a dreamer. It's very, very difficult to stay in altered states for long durations of time. But my darkroom dreaming has become absolutely powerful, where I'm pulling entire, like I literally will be in a dream, cross back into my bedroom, and pull the entire dream in with me. I've gotten 50, I've counted 50 disembodied heads that entered my room, and I was able to maintain and look at each one individually and get to know the different um, the ears and noses and eyes and eyebrows and creases and all this stuff. I got to hang out, and that's all real stuff. Okay, so I know that sounds intense, but that's nothing compared to what can happen once you move past that. Um, so I'm just dabbling still, but my dabbling is really intense compared to what other people can do. So um, all I can tell you is that it doesn't matter how you become lucid. You could become lucid through the gate of power, through hanging out in the wilderness at night. You could become lucid through uh, practicing Toltec dreaming techniques that were taught in the Castaneda books. You could become lucid by just discovering your own capacity to remember and access your imagination and move your perception and just start to track your discoveries. And as long as you're being honest with yourself, doors will open. If you stop lying to yourself and telling yourself you're special, right? That's when shit gets fucked up, and that's when you start a cult and you'll think, well, okay, here I am special, blah blah blah. And that's all insanity that all feeds self-importance, and that's what's going on in these powerful shamanic groups that I'm witnessing and getting kicked out of for calling them out on their shit. But it's the world we're in. We're in a world of echo chambers. It's really easy to create an echo chamber now because you can just say, oh, that person's extreme, or they've given misinformation, you cut them out, and then it's just this linear perspective, like a horse with blinders on. They can only see what's in front of them. We got to take the blinders off, you guys. We cannot domesticate our perception. Our perspective has to be expansive in order to evolve. We can be as dense as we want, but that does not lead to evolution. So there's no have tos. You don't have to do shit. You could literally just stay put and never move, and you'll see what happens. The police are going to eventually come and force you to move, right? You can't just stay in one place forever. I mean, you could try, but you either you dehydrate, But sorry, that's a weird tangent. But my point is that we're just here to breathe. No other rules whatsoever. We either breathe or we die. And so your only requirement is to breathe. Now, there are challenges that come with trying to hold that reality and not respond to the stimulus of the car honking at you, or the fact that your body's starting to turn to ammonia because you haven't eaten or drank water. Like, there comes a point where you have to choose whether you're going to, how you're going to contribute beyond being a breather, um, and what you're going to put in your body and what you're going to do with your time and all that. And that's about being creative. So the most healing thing you can do is access your imagination. That at some point you had it. Okay, I promise. If you at some point your imagination was incredible, and at some point something intervened on that and made sure that your imagination was hijacked. It's not has to do with whether you homeschooled or not, or whether you went to public school. It's something much more mysterious than that. Something came to my dreams when I was 4 years old, and it interfered with my capacity to do what I was doing. And I got really pissed. And then it started giving me night terrors, and it started telling me things. Like, if you don't do this, this, and this, then your mom's going to die. I mean, my mom did die later on. I don't know how these arrangements and these storylines play out, right? But I was trying to move my energy body. I was trying to move these basic blocks, put one block on top of the other, and I couldn't do it. I literally couldn't do it because I was trying to use a part of me that I was using in the physical reality to do it, and that's not the part that you do to move these blocks in dreaming. And so I ran into my first obstacle at a very young age. I'm still facing these obstacles. There are times where my energy body does not come online like I need it to move the block in my dreaming, to move the little yellow block on top of the red block. Like, this basic stuff that I'm still struggling with, because that's how hypnotized we are to believe that the physical reality is the only reality. There's an entire realm of incredible engagement that one can experience when they learn to move these blocks. So it's funny that they're called blocks, or that my dream was based on blocks. It's the chakra being blocked. It's the capacity to feel and be intuitive and know how to make the switch from the physical into the energetic. That would naturally happen if there wasn't this pressure from the outside to make sure that we don't activate that. There's also a pressure coming in to support it. So forces are intervening on you and me all the time. You're not just being left alone. So you're either gaining or losing energy in every moment, and it's how you get creative around that. Give yourself permission to check out when you need to, but there's a way to not lose energy while you're doing that. So that's all just stuff to look at. Our perspective has the capacity to be expansive, which will open up the imaginative and the creative, which will then give us the guidance that we need. Because if we're imaginative and creative, we will find our way to communication with the creator, because the longing for it is so incredible naturally. So like I've said, the ego deaths will naturally happen if you're not resisting this change we're in. It's all just showing up and becoming pretty powerful. So we're doing really cool things just by you listening to this and being open to it and being willing to hear it, right? We're doing really beautiful things in that we're starting to heal our heart and open it, to be compassionate. Eventually it moves past compassion into total indifference and a place of no pity. If you can't feel sorry for yourself, you can't feel sorry for others. But that's where you actually feel and see their story as truly beautiful and rich. So it's not compassion, it's like love. It's gratitude. When you have gratitude for everything, then you stop having you stop struggling. When gratitude is so powerful in your life, it will change the magnetic relationship that you have with everything. But getting to that kind of gratitude is not something that is easy. I'm not saying it is. You have to want to feel that. You have to long to feel that type of gratitude, in order for it to be a possibility. And that's okay to admit that you don't feel that kind of gratitude at this moment. I feel incredible amounts of gratitude. all the time, and it's going to get so much stronger that I have to become indifferent completely in order to survive it. So indifference and detachment aren't cold things. Well, they can be, but in the truest of true forms, it's pure and total acceptance that is indifference and detachment. And that acceptance is just open love, not closed fear, right? So we just how we make these perceptual adjustments is everything. How we move into a place in which we acknowledge how out of balance we are so that we can heal the parts of us that want to come on board and be engaged in this beautiful process. So parts of us aren't ready for the purification. Parts of us aren't ready for self responsibility, which is tied to self love. Because once you love yourself, you can start to be self responsible, which means you're not a victim, and then you're not blaming the cabal or the archons or the memory demons or the flyers for the fact you're having a bad day, right? You stop being self important, and you start become a really rare contribute contributing force. You're here to contribute. Ask the world what you can do for it rather than what can the world do for you. When you go to ask that question, you'll realize, oh, I'm not ready to make a contribution, not the one I would like. And so the real work is to go inward and to become whole. And that's where I come in. I can help you with that. You can do it on your own, 100%. You don't need me or anyone. What you do need is to admit where you're at, and that's the hardest part. Is most people can't do that. That's what I can help you get to. Is where are you really? Because our ego always wants us to believe that we're further behind than we are or further ahead. I've been told a long time ago that I could have started what I'm doing now 10 years ago um, by my teachers. And had I done that, I would have created a whole shit show of confusion. I would have learned from it and I would have been okay. I'd still be here talking to you probably. But I chose to learn my song well before I start singing. That's an old Bob Dylan line. I really took that to heart when I heard it. It's A Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. It's a really powerful song. I will know my song well before I start singing. Okay, so I've spent a lot of time alone. I've cultivated a relationship with spirit and the Earth Mother that is personal. It isn't based on what somebody's telling me. Um, and I've spent a lot of time with that connection, and so I'm sharing now from that point of perspective, that having had an alternative perspective, knowing also the perspective that most of you are in, I've also been there. And so this is just a bridge that I'm offering for a select few. I can teach you intense fucking sorcery practices, you guys. I can help you move your perception fast and far if you're here for the advanced work. But I'm not going to offer that to you if you haven't worked with your shadow. And so when we start to work together, that's going to become obvious. If you have done the work and you want to expedite your process and you want to have real gains in the shamanic world, reach out. Let's do it. I'm down. I need that. I need people that are able to keep up on that level to push me. I'm stoked for you if that's happening. I'll be able to tell if it's real, you know. So don't come at me with some bullshit. I'm not interested in hearing how incredible you are. I'm not trying to claim to be incredible myself. I'm here to claim how out of balance I am and how much work I have ahead of me. If I can see that in others and that they're willing to really, I'm not asking you to have done all your shadow work. I just need to know that you are aware of it. And then I can show you how to access really rare states of perception. But the reality is, when I show you and teach you how to begin that process, you're not likely going to be able or willing to do what it takes to reach that state of perception. That's okay. That just means you're not ready. But eventually, maybe 10 years from now, you'll you'll realize, wow, now I am. That's what happened to me. It's taken me a long time to come to terms with all this. It will take you time too, but you have a lot of really beautiful energy supporting this process. Um, so make use of that. Be stoked on your situation, you guys. You're starting to heal the real basic stuff. You're starting to real get clear on your relationships as a parent, as a son or a daughter, as a lover to another. Like, there's so many cool ways. Like, you can be celibate together. You can stop, stop releasing, no ejaculation and no orgasm even, and start playing with building affection in different ways together. You can just only touch, hands and build affection, get out of the carnal so that it's not driving your relationship, and start to expose and feel where your armor is with your partner, and then realize that your armor has nothing to do with them, and that their armor has nothing to do with you, and that you're all both just wounded people that are trying to connect, and that you're overriding your wounds, and that's affecting the shadow, that's affecting your sensitivities and your capacity to be true to yourself. And then it just, there's this unconscious energy exchange, and if you're sensitive to that, you'll be like, oh shit, this isn't working. Most of us just push past that and achieve the we have sex anyways. But when you really get clear on this stuff, it's like, oh yeah, no more unconsciousness. It's a whole different ball game. It leads to incredible, life-changing, everything, lovemaking, um, overall, the mood, the feeling, the passion, you bathe in this very particular energy when you're doing really powerful work with another, and that you're not in fear, and you're not trying to make them be something they're not. It doesn't happen all day long every day. I think for abstract sorcerers, they move beyond certain places to where it is a daily, constant aspect of who they are. So we are moving faster and faster toward mastery. Um, so it's really getting exciting. I appreciate you just hearing and listening and being part of my sharing, because this is my personal journey of me moving towards that mastery. I'm like I said, I'm an infant, but because I'm willing to be an infant, I'm going to be taught. The people that are willing to admit where they're at are going to be guided strongly. So I recommend that. Okay. I hope everyone has incredible um, rest of their day and week, and I'll be back in a few days. All right. Take care.